You've got to be kidding me. After everything Bron Breakker has done for Paul Heyman, after all the loyalty, after carrying the Heyman legacy into this new era, Paul just threw it all away for Seth freaking Rollins? Are you serious right now? Let me ask you something, when was the last time WWE absolutely disrespected a rising superstar this badly? When was the last time they took someone who was on the verge of becoming the next big thing and completely sabotaged them for a nostalgia act? Because that's exactly what happened after Raw went off the air, and if you're not furious about this, you haven't been paying attention. Drop a like right now if you're as disgusted as I am, smash that subscribe button because we need to hold WWE accountable for this absolute travesty, and comment below telling me I'm not crazy for thinking this is the biggest betrayal in modern WWE history. Let me paint you the picture of what went down after Raw's cameras supposedly stopped rolling, because this is information that WWE doesn't want getting out to the mainstream audience. They wanted to keep this quiet, sweep it under the rug, but guess what? We're WWE Reporter, and we don't stay silent when injustice happens. Bron Breakker just finished destroying everything in his path. The man had just cut a promo that would have made his father Rick Steiner and his uncle Scott Steiner proud. He was standing in that ring, Paul Heyman by his side, looking like the most dominant force in professional wrestling today. The crowd was electric, chanting his name, and you could feel that main event energy radiating from him. Then Seth Rollins' music hit. Now, we all thought this was going to be the setup for a massive confrontation. Breakker versus Rollins for the championship. The young lion against the architect. The future against the present. This is the money match that fans have been begging for. And Paul Heyman, the advocate, the wise man, the greatest manager in WWE history, stood there next to Bron with that smirk on his face like he was ready to orchestrate another masterpiece. But then something happened that nobody saw coming. As Rollins walked down that ramp with his eyes locked on Breakker, as the tension built to a fever pitch, Paul Heyman did the unthinkable. He grabbed a microphone, looked Bron Breakker dead in the eyes, and said the three words that will haunt this young man's career: "I'm sorry, kid. I'm sorry, kid? Are you kidding me right now?" Before Bron could even process what was happening, Heyman dropped him with a low blow. The same Paul Heyman who spent months building up Bron Breakker, who promised him the world, who said he saw the same potential in him that he saw in Brock Lesnar, just turned his back on him in the most cowardly way possible. And if that wasn't bad enough, Seth Rollins seized the opportunity like the opportunistic vulture he is and proceeded to deliver a curb stomp that echoed throughout that empty arena. But he didn't stop there. Oh no, that wasn't enough for Seth Rollins. He hit another curb stomp. And another. And another. For consecutive curb stomps to a man who was already down, already betrayed, already broken. If you're watching this and you're not seething with anger, check your pulse because you might be dead inside. Comment below and tell me how you're feeling right now because I need to know I'm not alone in thinking this is absolutely disgusting. The imagery of what happened next will be burned into my brain forever. Paul Heyman, the man who claimed to see Bron Breakker as the future, helped Seth Rollins to his feet. They embraced in the middle of that ring like long-lost brothers reuniting. And while they celebrated their reunion, Bron Breakker lay there motionless, his championship aspirations potentially shattered, his trust destroyed, his career trajectory derailed. Let's talk about the why here, because this is where it gets even more infuriating. According to sources close to the situation, Paul Heyman apparently felt that Seth Rollins represents a safer investment for his legacy. A safer investment? Are you absolutely kidding me right now? Bron Breakker is 26 years old. He's a genetic freak, to borrow a phrase from his uncle Scott. The man is built like a tank, moves like a cruiserweight, and has the intensity of a young Brock Lesnar combined with the technical prowess of Kurt Angle. He's everything you could want in a modern WWE superstar. He's the complete package. But instead of riding that rocket to the moon, Paul Heyman decided to crawl back to Seth Rollins, a man who's been in WWE for over a decade, a man who's already had multiple championship reigns, a man who frankly doesn't need Paul Heyman to succeed. Make it make sense. You know what this really is? This is WWE once again protecting their chosen ones at the expense of new talent. This is them being terrified of actually pulling the trigger on someone new. This is them playing it safe instead of taking the risk that could create the next megastar. Subscribe right now if you're tired of WWE playing it safe. We need 10,000 subscribers by the end of this week to show WWE that the fans are demanding change. Let me take you back for a second because the disrespect here runs even deeper than you think. Remember when Paul Heyman first aligned with Bron Breakker? It was supposed to be this huge moment. Heyman came out and cut that promo about how Brock Lesnar was his past, Roman Reigns was his present, but Bron Breakker was his future. He talked about how Bron had that it factor that only comes around once in a generation. We all bought into it. The fans bought into it. Bron Breakker bought into it. The man changed his entire approach to his character based on Heyman's guidance. He became more calculated, more vicious, more ruthless. He started winning matches in more dominant fashion. He was on the fast track to the main event scene, and for what? So Paul Heyman could use him as a stepping stone to get back with Seth Rollins? So he could be discarded like yesterday's trash the moment a safer option presented itself? This is a slap in the face not just to Bron Breakker, but to every single young talent in that locker room who's been told to pay their dues and wait their turn. This sends the message that no matter how talented you are, no matter how hard you work, if you're not part of WWE's inner circle, you will always be expendable. Let's talk about Seth Rollins for a minute because he's not innocent in this either. This man knew what he was doing. He saw an opportunity to eliminate a future threat to his position in the company, and he took it without hesitation. That's not the mark of a champion. That's the mark of someone who's afraid of the competition. Seth Rollins talks all this talk about building the future and elevating young talent, but when push comes to shove, when there's an actual young star who could potentially replace him at the top of the card, what does he do? He conspires with Paul Heyman to take him out. That's hypocrisy at its finest. And you know what the worst part about all of this is? WWE is probably going to frame this as some kind of genius storytelling. They're going to pat themselves on the back for this shocking swerve and act like they've created must-see television. But what they've actually done is potentially killed the momentum of one of their most promising young stars. Do you know how hard it is to recover from something like this? The fans invested their emotions in Bron Breakker. They believed in his partnership with Paul Heyman. And now that trust has been shattered. How is Bron supposed to get that back? How is he supposed to convince the audience to believe in him again when the greatest advocate in wrestling history just told him he's not good enough? Comment below if you think Bron Breakker can come back from this, because honestly, I'm not even sure anymore, and that breaks my heart. Let me tell you what should have happened. Bron Breakker and Paul Heyman should have gone on to dominate Raw for the next 2 years. They should have been the most feared combination in WWE. Bron should have captured the World Heavyweight Championship at the next Premium Live event and held it hostage just like Brock Lesnar did during his historic run. That's the story that makes sense. That's the story that creates a new superstar. But instead, we get this nonsense. We get Paul Heyman running back to familiar territory because WWE is too scared to commit to something new. We get Seth Rollins adding another accolade to his already stacked resume while a young talent gets buried in the process. You want to know what's going through Bron Breakker's mind right now? He's probably questioning everything. He's wondering if he made the right choice trusting Paul Heyman. He's wondering if he should have stayed on his original path as a lone wolf destroying everything in his way. He's wondering if the political game in WWE is just too rigged for a young guy like him to ever truly succeed. And you know what? He might be right to think that way. Because this business has a long history of chewing up and spitting out talented young performers who dared to be different, who dared to be great on their own terms. If you're still watching this video, like it right now because we're about to hit you with some exclusive information about what happened backstage after this betrayal went down. According to multiple sources in the WWE locker room, Bron Breakker had to be physically restrained by agents and other wrestlers after he came through the curtain. The man was irate, and rightfully so. He reportedly confronted Triple H and demanded an explanation for why this angle was approved. He wanted to know why nobody told him this was coming. He wanted to know why his character was being sacrificed for this storyline. And you know what Triple H allegedly told him? It's best for business. Best for business. Whose business? Certainly not Bron Breakker's business. Certainly not the business of creating new stars that can carry this company into the future. This is the same best for business logic that's been holding WWE back for years. It's the same logic that kept John Cena on top for a decade even when fans were begging for someone new. It's the same logic that prevented countless talented performers from reaching their full potential. Paul Heyman himself has been eerily quiet on social media since this went down. Usually, he's quick to post cryptic messages or hype up whatever storyline he's involved in. But this time? Nothing. Radio silence. That tells you everything you need to know about how he feels about this situation. Even he knows this was wrong. Seth Rollins, on the other hand, posted a picture of himself with Paul Heyman with the caption "The Visionary and the Wise Man." The audacity. The absolute arrogance. He's gloating about stealing another man's advocate, about derailing another man's career, about being handed yet another advantage by the WWE system. Let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about this before you answer in the comments. Does this make you more or less likely to watch WWE programming going forward? Does this make you more or less invested in Bron Breakker as a character? Does this make you more or less excited about the future of Raw? Because from where I'm sitting, this feels like a massive step backward. This feels like WWE reverting to their old habits of protecting established stars at the expense of new ones. This feels like a company that's terrified of change, terrified of taking risks, terrified of trusting their audience to embrace something different. We are WWE Reporter, and we will continue to call out this kind of nonsense whenever we see it. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss when we drop truth bombs like this. The only way this story gets saved is if Bron Breakker comes back with a vengeance. I'm talking about an unhinged, unleashed version of Bron that makes his previous work look tame by comparison. I'm talking about him systematically destroying everyone in his path until he gets his hands on both Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins. I'm talking about a redemption arc so powerful that it erases the memory of this betrayal. But here's the thing, WWE has to actually commit to that. They can't do this betrayal angle and then have Bron lose his next 3 matches. They can't have him cut a sad babyface promo about how hurt he is and then move on to a mid-card feud. They have to go all in on Bron Breakker as a monster who's out for blood. Will they do it? Based on their track record, I'm not holding my breath. But I hope they prove me wrong. I hope they realize they have something special in Bron Breakker and don't let this moment define him in a negative way. This is your chance to make your voice heard. Comment below, share this video, tag WWE's official accounts, and let them know that the fans are not happy about this. Let them know that we want to see Bron Breakker get his revenge. Let them know that we're tired of the same old names being pushed at the expense of new talent. The wrestling business needs Bron Breakker to succeed. The industry needs fresh faces at the top of the card. WWE needs to take risks if they want to create the next generation of superstars who can carry this company for the next decade. Paul Heyman betraying Bron Breakker to rejoin Seth Rollins might be the story WWE wants to tell, but it's not the story the fans need to see. It's not the story that's best for business. It's not the story that creates stars. Make sure you're subscribed to WWE Reporter because we will be following this story every step of the way. We'll have exclusive backstage reports, insider information, and we'll continue to hold WWE accountable for their creative decisions. This is just the beginning.